Well, I was just out and about, and I just thought, wow, let me just drive by my old community. And this is the newer Silverton Paideia Academy. It used to be Silverton Elementary School. This is a new location. It's where Silverton Park used to be, and we used to play basketball and go swimming and had baseball diamonds and everything up here. But obviously now it's been redeveloped, and I'll show you in a minute here where we used to be, but with that school. But anyway, this little bit of the community where we grew up, and hey, why not? I'm just out here relaxing this afternoon and thought I'd just do this. But anyway, that's the newer facility, and some really cool people came out of Silverton, and I'll share some of that in a minute. But Silverton is actually a part of what we call Kennedy Heights, Silverton, and that was named after our baseball and football and basketball and later soccer athletic association produced some great athletes. That funeral home is Thomas Memorial. We had a bad tornado here back in the 70s. It split the top of that building. And here on my left here is Esther Price Candies, not related to me, but they've been there who knows how many decades. But if you ever see Esther Price Candies in the stores, that's where that small building's where it's located. By the way, if you ever catch Myers Wine on the shelves, Myers Wine is a few streets away, a street called Plainfield. But anyhow, again, we're at the Montgomery Road, which is the main stretch, going towards downtown, up north as well. But and then to my left here, you'll see some condos or whatever apartments. That's actually where Silverton Elementary School used to be. And again, some great memories. Interestingly enough, back in the 60s, our school received bomb threats as we were going through the civil rights movement. I'm headed now down Stowe Lane, and I could name just about every family was on Stowe Lane. We used to do a lot of lawns when I was younger and do all kind of odd jobs to make a little money. But Misty Smith, she might remember this place. It looks familiar. That's where Misty's just received her doctorate in ministry or theology. She lived there, and I have some relatives that live on this street. This is the other side of what would have been the old Silverton School facility right there, but obviously now it's been redeveloped. We had a gentleman that used to own Ike's Barbecue that lived on the street in that house, and sadly enough, Ike died in a boating accident several years ago. The Davis's house, Lori and Julie and Lisa and those folks lived there. And Stowe was a really cool street. A lot of friends there, all up and down the street. We had, again, some interesting people that lived here. We had a lot of people from the Reds. Old Reds used to live here. Beta Pinson. I think Lee May lived down this area for a long time. Frank Robinson used to live in this area while he was here briefly. But also in this house right here to my left is where the Cardenases lived. And Leo Cardenas was the Reds shortstop before Davey Concepcion. Leo Cardenas played out of Cuba, came to Cincinnati, and I believe he was actually shot for playing baseball on Sundays. And so you can see all the way down the street there. But anyway, yeah, that's the Cardenas' old house. And we go further down the street there. Stowe is kind of long street. Then we're making a right here, and next street over is the street I grew up on, Elwyn Drive, and that house is the rear of where Reverend Ozell Freeman, he was the pastor of Mount Sinai Baptist Church. He happened to be our history teacher, and what was the cool thing about it is Mr. Freeman lived on our street. And so it was just that kind of place, that kind of community. Mr. Freeman lived there, and then the Ventises lived there, and the Waltons, Randy Walton, Mark Walton just passed recently, God bless his soul. Just a lot of people, just all up and down. We had children all up and down the street. In just about every house, they were just packed with children. Sometimes you'll hear me talk about Bishop Donald Clay out of Petra Ministries in Pittsburgh. That's where Donald, or Peppy as we called him back in the day, he actually lived in that house. And then, you know, we had Marilyn Roper, they lived down in here. And then we had Henry Wilson's house right here. Henry was a great architect, actually he's a pastor as well, but Henry designed some really cool buildings in the area. His daughter actually lives next door, and they just lost Pam, and beautiful young lady, she just died. Dennis Jones and the Jones family lived there. They used to, she used to babysit for us. We used to do the same. We called each other brother from another mother. We had a construction company owner there. The Johnsons lived here, Eddie and Jackie and those folks, Lonnie, and God bless them all. And Miss Kinley lived here. She was one of the people that worked at Mom's salon. And this place right here, this driveway right here is interesting because you might not be able to see it, but that's the first time well, not the first, but back years ago, a young man or gentleman got murdered. They found his body out in that driveway, and I mean, that was a shock to us because it's such a cool community. The DuBoises lived there. They had 12 people in their family, and they've just really some great people, just all kind of walks of life. Right here is where the Larkins lived, and you know, God bless them. Barry Larkin played 19 years for the Cincinnati Reds. Now he's in the Hall of Fame. And just a great person. In fact, on the street before on Stoll, his wife, Lisa, and you can see their house, she lived right behind them. So they grew up and got married. And so J.P. Morgan's family lived here. J.P. is a pastor now, really good guy. We had an anesthesiologist that lived here, the Coles, and Cecil Coles. His son, Kendall, is now a magistrate in Hamilton County. We had an engineer here. Ben Lowe lived in that house, and Terry Gibson, we played baseball together. Really just a great guy. In fact, his father and my father were born on the same day in the same year, believe it or not. So they lived there. The Baileys lived here, and the Baileys were interesting because the Baileys had two women, and they both were 100 years old at some point. We were back in the day. My next door neighbor was Ricky Beatty, Ricky, Debbie, and Robin. They lived there, and Mr. Beatty was a adult probation officer. And then the Halls lived here. Just wonderful people lived there. And the Birds lived here, and God knows, I can't even tell you all the crazy stuff we did together, but they lived there. And that's where I lived. That was our house. We grew up at 6847, the fifth house on the right, as we used to say, coming from the post office. Then we had the Marshalls here. If anybody's familiar with Wrong Way Marshall from Minnesota Vikings, he actually ran a touch. Well, he thought he was taking back the ball on a turnover, but he actually took it the wrong way. They call him Wrong Way Marshall. Anyway, his brother was our next door neighbor. Jim Marshall played for the Purple Peekaboo Eaters, and that was his brother lived there. And then the Bells lived there. Johnny, Ricky, as we call him. And anyway, and Crystal, they lived there. Toppy, and we did crazy stuff too. Just, again, beautiful people. The Kennedys lived there. They're wonderful people. Just, you know, just a really cool street. I got so many memories of these people. The Stones lived right there. And I can't do all the houses because people are looking. But they probably wonder what I'm doing. But anyway, you know, just really good people. And then we had a post office right on the corner. So we used to go up there and just deliver, you know, get the mail and everything, and take our mail to the mailbox. And just, you know, just a really cool community. We're on the other side of Montgomery Road now, and we'll just make a couple turns. But anyway, That's Elwyn Drive, and I love this place. Elwyn Drive was such a special place. Silverton, a great place, and together with his contiguous partner, community partner, Kennedy Heights, just a really cool place to live. And we had just a lot going on here. Sports, churches, we had community councils, we had after school programs, we just had athletics. It was just a really fun place. I'm going to make a left here and we'll go on to Sampson Lane. And I know a lot of people lived on Sampson Lane as well. Again, we used to do a lot of these lawns as well. We were growing up. We cut everybody's lawn. But this is a really cool place right here. This was the fire and police station, backside of it. And once a year, usually in June, I think it was, we'd do the Fireman's Festival. And they'd have raffles. It's just a really cool, fun place to hang out once a year. The community would get together. And we'd have it right there in the parking lot. Just a real fun time. And so we have, again, this is Sampson Lane. This is Mr. Tidsworth old house there. And that's actually on the other side, on the back side of it is where we lived, on Elwyn. But that was our neighbor to the rear. And again, just going down here, and you know, we cut many of these lawns as well. Going down, and then the Robinsons lived right up here on the corner to the right, that white house, Quincy and his folks. And then Donald Red and his people lived there. And so we used to hang out quite a bit. We bowled together. Just a lot of cool people. The Doggetts lived here on the left. And they had several brothers. God bless Anthony, passed recently. And Stacy, the youngest, she came along the same time my younger brother came along, Sean. And Stacy was one of those late babies. They had a rash of them happen in Silverton. But again, just beautiful people. We used to, this was just a really nice community. We're on the lower part of Sampson. The Kellys lived here, and I think Lisa went to Harvard. Just a great person. They had some good people in the house. Then the Burnses lived there. Sonny Burns was an entrepreneur, owned a radio station. I believe he owned WCIA, and they used to have a swimming pool in their backyard. But anyway, Mike and David lived there. Good friends, played football and all that stuff. Just coming on down here, and you know, we had Marvin and Scott Williams. They lived down in this area right over in here. And coming on down to the circle, Blair Smith, if she's watching this, she'll see this. But she lived down here. And then down in the cut, that's where Judge is Leslie, well, the late Leslie Isaiah Gaines was judge, and he and his wife. And Mr. Gaines was interesting. Judge Gaines, he became a pastor later, but he's known nationwide as well. He was the first he was the first attorney to advertise on television in the nation's history, and that's where he lived, right there. He was the very first. In fact, Charlie Rhodes had him on as an interview. You might be able to catch it on YouTube, because there was a big question as to how that would change the legal system to have lawyers advertising on television. Now, it seems kind of archaic to even ask that question now, but back in the day, it wasn't. He was being the first. Anyway, again, that's the Burns' house, old house right there. And then, you know, we come up, and Pleasant, that was the Burns' swimming pool used to be right back there. And so we come up here to Plainfield, and this was just another nice, you know, cool place. The Lynhams lived here. Timmy and I, good friends, and the sisters. In fact, one of the sisters had a baby the same time my mother was in the hospital with my youngest brother. And so they just lost one of their sisters recently, and I just, you know, I definitely think about her sometimes. Just a really nice young lady. Then, a funny story, Timothy Ormsby lived over in this area, and we got in trouble one time. You know, back in the day, we used to have these little things where you get into a little gang in school, and you get beat up, you get in the gang, and then you can beat up other people. So I remember we call ourselves we in the gang now, so we call ourselves gonna beat up Timmy. Timmy told Mr. Keys, our principal, I think the principal swung more wood that day than I'd ever seen. It had been at least 50 of us got paddled. It was crazy. But then my good friend Rodine Frazier, you might remember the blowout comb. His father, actually, that was their product, the Frazier blowout comb. They lived there. And Rodine just lost a brother, Brian. In fact, I pray that we can get this street named after Brian. But Brian was playing football at Miami U of Ohio in Oxford, and really just a freak hit. And he never walked again. You know, he broke his neck, but he went on to become a lawyer. I mean, he passed recently, but just one of the nicest, most energetic, one of the most encouraging individuals I think I've ever met. But anyway, he lived there, and he come on down, and just a lot of cool people lived on this street as well. I can't remember. I think it was this house, I believe. Some of the houses, the facades look different. Anyway, I believe that's it, or maybe it's right here. But anyway, the Davises, they just lost Greg, and he was my age, and we used to play ball together. But they lost another son, Sammy Davis Jr. He was an entrepreneur. He owned like 5 restaurants in Chicago, and just a really sharp guy. But anyway, this is just, you know, it's Highland. The street's called Highland, but it's a lot of just cool communities, and I could name so many different things about this area as well. I think one of the good things about this community is that we were mobile. I mean, we didn't have the cars at a young age, but we walked, and I mean, we got around. We would be all over this place, and we knew everybody. I mean, it was just the kind of place you just love to grow up. The Johnsons lived here on my right. I believe they had about 12 in their family as well, and Nadine was my age. Beautiful singer, just wonderful people, actually. And anyway, they lived there, and so this is I could go further down to where the Fordhams are, just tell a whole bunch of stories about the Fordhams. That was a cool area, but I'm gonna swing back and kind of show you something, another special place in the small community of Silverton. We had about 5,000 people that lived at any time in this area, and what's interesting about it is 3 people who are now in the Hall of Fame in different sports lived in Silverton. Barry Larkin, I mentioned earlier. Roger Staubach, that played quarterback for some of the great Dallas Cowboy teams, lived in Silverton. He went to Purcell High School here, went on to Navy. And then Aaron Pryor, the boxer. I think Aaron retired at, I don't know, I think it was 32 or 34-0. Beat on Alexis Arguello. He beat him a couple times. In fact, Aaron would beat just about everybody. They used to call him Hawk Time. And he put that hawk on you, and that boy would light it up. I mean, he put them paws on you, and they came fast, and they came hard, and he had a jaw. He could take a punch. But just really cool. The Barreses lived there, Johnny and his brothers, David and them. But Johnny could hit a tether ball. He'd hit the thing off the rope. He was so big, and we just used to, man, we played. It was crazy. But he would hit that tether ball, and that thing would come right off the rope. So I'm gonna show you just a couple other places here. Again, I don't know, before I get home I might as well just go on and just hang out and enjoy this. But this place right here is an extremely special place. It's Mount Sinai Baptist Church. Mount Sinai, as you can see, Mount Sinai Baptist Church. It's right there. And that's where Ozell Freeman was our pastor. Then later on, Danny Williams was there, and we had several people. Looks like it's closed up now. But I could tell story after story after story, and some of them not so good. I mean, one time I was in a business meeting here, a church meeting as a kid, and I actually saw somebody pull out a gun. That was a bizarre situation. And then in that spot right there, so I'm gonna swing around to the left here, you'll see it. I'm walking through this cut, what used to be, which is really where the police and fire were. I'm walking through here. I hear crazy stuff going on in the back, so I swing back around, and there's this huge fight breaking out right here. And it was some guys. It's a long story. I'm not gonna really get into the story, but and they're grown men. I mean, and most of them were like 6'2", 6'3", and they were walloping this guy, and I caught myself trying to break the fight up. I jump in between them, trying to break grown men up, and almost got stabbed. One guy swung a knife at me. He wasn't trying to, I don't know. He had no out with me, but I was trying to break up the fight, and it happened right there. But, I mean, this church produced so many wonderful people of God. I mean, number of pastors, great singers. When you talk about a community, this is one of the staples of the community. And a lot of good things, a lot of good people came out of here. I remember once, well, heck, I tell so many stories. But I remember one time, one of the memories I have is when I was, I don't know, 12 or 13, maybe 14, I can't remember. A guy by the name of Deacon Jones loaned me 25 cents to get some soda because I didn't have any money on me. And he died that week. I was going to pay him back Sunday, and he died that week before I could see him in church, and I still remember that. But I mean, this was a great place. It looks like it's boarded up now, and I'm not so sure what they're doing with it, but I have an idea now that I've seen it. I have an idea, and I'm going to inquire about this building. But anyway, that's Mount Sinai, and so that was a great place for our community. And this is the front side of the police building right there. And a crazy thing happened to me in that building when I was a child.